So for this Sandbox episode, we are excited to talk to somebody who we've heard about and we've talked about time and time again on the show. And a lot of you have asked us to talk to him. And we are excited right now to talk to freelance illustrator veteran Dan Mumford. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dan to the show.
Hey, yo.
Thank you.
Dan, like I said in the intro, and like I said to you before, we've had people who have asked us to chat with you, and so they're going to be super stoked. And this, you get to be our first interview that is like our foray into video. So hopefully this goes well. If you're seeing this, that means it was successful. If you're just hearing it, it means we'll try again next week.
This one's not on me, though. I blame Andrew for this mistake.
I agree. It's Andrew.
So Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. No, it's great to be here. Looking forward to it.
So, at first glance, we can find out that you are not from the United States. So maybe tell everybody where you're from, and then give us the Wikipedia page about yourself.
I am from the UK, and I live in London. I guess the short version is I've been a freelance illustrator for just over 10 years now, and I've made my way through sort of various elements of that. And yeah, I've just been doing that pretty full on for 10 years now. Yeah.
Wow. So a minute.
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, so how does that change? Like if you're 10 years deep, then what does your career now look like versus when you started?
Well, when I started, I was pretty much just doing like music based stuff. So I was
like gig posters.
No, it wasn't gig posters at all. Actually,
Okay.
it was doing like T-shirts and CD covers, record covers, mainly for like friends of mine that were in bands because I was also in bands, and that's kind of the DIY punk world I started out in, if you will, when I was younger, and so that was pretty much what I did for about 4 to 5 years. Like, I must have done, hundreds and hundreds of T-shirt designs and a good few hundred CD covers as well. So it was a weird. It was a really nice place to start because I was really comfortable with it. But
Sure.
I've moved on quite a bit from there now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that you moved on quite a bit. I think I first saw your work. It's probably 2 years ago now, maybe 3 years. Saw your work and you were doing some property. I think it was. I want to say it was the Ghostbusters Steelbook stuff that you did, and I'm sure we'll get to all of that stuff. But as far as the music side is concerned, what was it about doing that stuff that was intriguing to you, but not so intriguing to you that you stayed there?
Well, do you know what the reason it was really. I'll go back slightly. So when I was at university, I had this. I was doing illustration there. It's like a 3-year course, and I think when everyone's going through that phase of trying to sort of learn, I guess essentially, I had, like most people at art university, I had that sort of panic moment of what am I doing? What's my style? How am I actually going to make a living out of this?
Yeah.
And in the 3 years that I'd been at university, I'd kind of let the music part of my life fall to the side a bit. I'd even left the band I was in at the time when I went to university, and so actually it was like this moment in my last few months of being at university where a friend of mine in a band called Gallows, they asked me to help them out with the record cover and some artwork, and I was like, do you know what? That makes sense. I can sort of indulge my passion for that side of the music world, but utilize this ability I've got, if you will. And it was like this perfect matching of doing something that I can do for something I love, if you will.
Yeah.
And I still love doing stuff for the music world and bands and stuff. It's mainly alternative stuff, hardcore, metal, that sort of stuff.
Right.
But it's sort of. I'll be honest, there isn't a lot of money in that world for designers and illustrators. And, so when other opportunities came along, I took them because they're fun and diverse. And after about 4 or 5 years of doing that, there's only so many like zombies and things you can draw before
Sure.
Right.
you
Like-
kind of need a bit of a change.
Well, yeah, and I guess depending on what level you're at, a lot of these bands are trying to eke out a living, so it's difficult to then on top of that, you also be able to make a living when a lot of those people are struggling as well. I mean, I think that most of us have dabbled in that scene, there's just a point where it's like this is going to be a struggle, and this might be a struggle for a while. Or I could maybe just let it be a nice hobby, and I could jump into something that maybe is a little bit more of a sure footing. So moving, so you're having to move from making that decision end of university to decide, kind of who am I? Where's my place where I fit, and how am I going to make support myself doing this, whatever, and then. Now you talk about 5 years, and then also kind of making another transition. When you're at these moments, like how do you handle those well? Like how do you? Because it can be a bit of a kind of paralyzing thing, and it can also be a bit tough to stay motivated through those times. So how have you done that personally?
I think it's mainly by taking those transitions quite slowly. Like never really making it a sudden thing, never being like, I'm not going to do that anymore. There's still, to this day, there's like bands that I have good relationships with still, because I will still want to work with them. And, I think I've got that thing, it's the same thing that I think most freelance illustrators and designers have. You always worried that all the work's just going to go. It's all going to dry up,
Sure.
So,
Sure.
like, I've never really closed myself off from any avenues at all. And those sort of transitional periods, they've been very natural for me, and I've just I haven't specifically gone after anything. It's just they've kind of happened, over a couple of years' time, that sort of thing.
Sure.
And then with the music stuff, it would simply be a case of eventually I was working on more diverse projects where. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to sort of do maybe the smaller projects for bands and smaller labels and stuff. And you can't work with everyone all the time, unfortunately.
Yeah, sure. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about kind of moving out of the music world and moving into some of these more some of these larger properties, or doing licensed work for films and TV and all that stuff. What was the gateway into that? Like, what was the project that kind of broke you into this world? Because, and we'll get there. We'll talk about, the expanse of your work, which seems like it is just on overdrive right now. You are just churning something out day after day after day.
He's working right now while we talk.
I know, you're
Both
multitasking.
hands
You
are
can't
like illustrating.
You can't see the other hand, yeah.
But so we'll get to all of what what all is involved there. But what was the gateway into that? What was that jump off point?
I think, do you know what? It was working with a gallery, a company called Dark City Gallery in the UK, and they approached me quite out of the blue to work with them. I'd say maybe 6 years ago now, maybe 5 years ago, to do just some screen prints for them, and they're based in the UK, just a few hours outside of London, and they would go to a lot of the conventions that we had. Nothing on the scale of US Comic Cons or anything, but
Sure.
We have various ones that are pretty big, and so he was basically doing licensed, I think mainly licensed art prints based on classic horror films, pretty much. But really, I remember him telling me at the time, I think he was trying to make it quite specific, and if he could, he'd go after British properties, like UK properties, whatever. And we worked on a few things, like we did. I can't remember what the very first one we did was, but the main one we did was the Wicker Man, which is a pretty crazy film, a classic film as well, and that was probably the biggest one we did together that really, sort of clicked and made me realize that people really like this sort of stuff,
Right.
And that was working with him, Ross at Dark City Gallery. That was kind of the moment I realized it was a thing I could involve myself in, if you will. And actually, alongside that, I also worked with Adam at Hero Complex on what was it? It was Jaws. That was it. They were doing a Jaws themed show. I think this was one of their first earlier shows as well. And sort of that alongside this stuff in the UK made me sort of realize I had this whole wide world of working within movies as well, which I'm sure, we're all aware is very saturated at this point.
Sure.
But I think maybe 5 years ago it wasn't quite the same. That was kind of the turning point for me, I'd say.
So you brought up a good point, which is that the market is incredibly saturated, and you said that 5 years ago this was a different story, and I think that's something that can't be. I think it's a good idea to talk about that and to think about that, because so much. Everybody, it seems like, is putting out a movie poster these days. Everybody is putting out, whether it's fan art or it seems like they're handing licenses out. For some of these properties, left and right. But what makes you stand out, I think, a little bit in this field is you have really honed in on your look. Like you talk about people who have a style and they evolve, they change, and you can kind of see these different periods of their design style. Your aesthetic is locked and loaded. So can you talk to us a little bit about that, like about why? Because I think I'll kind of make my assumption in it. I think it's because that's why you keep getting so much work, is because you have found your look and people are excited about it. So what is it about that you gravitate toward, your look, and how would you describe your look?
I guess, do you know what? As far as describing my look goes, I have no idea. I can never actually accurately describe it. But the reason I do stuff the way I do, it all comes from like my first forays into doing screen printing when I was quite a lot younger. Like my work was always built in a way that was layered, essentially. Like it was very basic layering for screen print, and I kind of never left that behind, even when working on like crazy full colored images, even if they might be CMYK G-Clays or whatever.
Right.
Like I still work in that layered way that is kind of me carving away at color, if you will. And do you know what? I had this, there was this sort of moment a few years ago where I was talking to someone about like experimenting with stuff and, thinking, maybe I should try using more half toning or something. And they kind of went, no, why would you do that? Like everyone does that. And I just went, I was sort of like, okay, actually you're right. Like I kind of feel if I did add more, there's certain looks to stuff. And I think the way I work does differentiate me, because in a little way I'm holding myself back slightly, if you will, by not experimenting too much. Yeah. But I find other ways to experiment, if you will. But yeah, like you say, I've kind of had this style pretty honed in for a few years now, and I'm just I experiment in ways like more detail or compositionally or different coloring techniques, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah.
So do you think that consistency, like especially if someone is going to pick an artist for a project, bring it to someone, that consistency just helps people go, oh, this is for sure, this is Dan, because it's so easy to identify what it is. And I think that makes total sense. One thing you also said before we started talking is you said that you're a very, very disciplined when it comes to like getting work done, and I assume you mean like scheduling it, being on task, delivering well. And I imagine this is something that also leads to you getting more work or repeat work. So
probably,
people appreciate
I would think
it.
so.
Yeah.
I assume people call you back after the first time. So talk about that. So when you describe yourself as disciplined, and in what ways are you referring to?
I am I'm very much someone that luckily I can create work quite quickly as well. And it sort of means if someone comes to me with a project, I can sort of go, okay, there's 2 days here, there's 3 days here. I can schedule that in, and I very much do have a calendar with stuff scheduled in. And, if something isn't finished on the day it's meant to be finished, that can throw things off slightly. But at the same time, I'll probably just stay a bit later to finish that piece of work. But at the same time, I try and be as precisely on point with my emails as I can. Like, don't even get me started about people with inboxes filled with thousands of unread emails. It drives me insane. That sort of stuff I think has really helped me, because I think there was probably a point maybe like 6 or 7 years ago when, I would let emails get on top of me and let deadlines run over and just have I still have, a massive list of 15 jobs going on right now, but
sure.
But I'm on top of them because I know that they sort of will work out in the end, But, I kind of have so much going on that I really have to be disciplined about making sure that those emails are replied to, this gets done on that day, and every deadline that has to be hit is written down. My screen on my computer in the studio is just notes everywhere on the screen, but it all works together,
Yeah.
And I think everyone has their own variation on this.
Sure.
But when like we were talking about having a style honed in or whatever, like my way of working is also quite honed in. So, it's very easy to keep that going over a long period of time. And when something back in December, my computer, I had to reinstall OS X and lost some stuff. And that really that screwed me up completely for a good month, Luckily it was over Christmas, so most people didn't care anyway, but
luckily, except not really for you, because
no
now your holidays are
it was stressful for sure.
So does so you've been doing this for 10 years. You are a decade into doing this professionally. Have you been freelance only for those 10 years, or was there a transition period that happened during those 10 years?
No, just freelance the whole time. I got really lucky straight out with some good jobs.
Yeah. So talk maybe a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about the decision to go freelance full time, and then actually taking the plunge into that.
Well, essentially what happened was in my last few months of when I was at university, I worked on a few jobs that were pretty much my first real jobs, if you will. And they paid just enough, and at just the right time, just as I was leaving to come to London, because I went to university in Brighton, which is by the seaside, lovely place, very chilled. But me and some of my friends had decided to move into London to start our new careers or whatever. And I was living with 3 other guys, and they, 2 of them had design jobs. Another guy had a job in doing some other stuff. And I was the only freelance illustrator. And so I kind of had just enough money to know that I'd be safe for 3 months, maybe 4 months. So I kind of had a terrifying few months of what the hell have I done? Can I make this work? And luckily I did make it work. Some jobs came in, and it has been that constant role of thinking, is this going to keep carrying on, if you will? But obviously 10 years down the line, it's a lot safer and
so it's a little bit more
stable.
Secure. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, it's a tough decision to make at the time, but the right decision. And, I had that sort of slight security bed of knowing I could do it for a few months.
So what advice because there are a lot of people that listen to the show and that we can interact with on a daily basis, that that's what they're trying to do. I mean, there are many of them. They're just trying to be you. So, but if like they wanna leave their job, they want to be able to freelance full time. They want to produce art full time. And what's your advice to someone like that? That's like, I'm working 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week doing this other thing that isn't art related. I want to be able to make that transition. Is it, you pull the plug and cross your fingers, or I know you mentioned you take time to make the transition. You like to kind of be very kind of careful with that. But what would your advice be to someone?
I mean, like I said, I was really lucky in that I didn't have to make a transition from a full-time job into freelancing.
Right.
But it's been a situation that some of my friends have definitely been in before. And unfortunately, I think it just does come down to a lot of discipline and sort of, if you have to kind of take a plunge occasionally, if you will, and sort of believe in the work you're doing. And also just try and work with people that you can trust to an extent. Like, there are, we all know there are bad jobs and there are good jobs. And I think you got to try and be really clever about the decisions you make and the decisions about how you spend your time. Because especially if you're working a full-time job and trying to do freelance stuff on the side, your time is really precious.
Right.
Especially if you're someone with a family as well. Like,
Totally.
I think I would say kind of, try and make yourself unique in a way, or try and make the work you're doing unique in a way so that you can really stand out. Because there's nothing more, it's a real shame if someone's spending a lot of time doing something and then it's just like, well, kind of looks just like someone else's work or something, So I don't know, just being really clever about how you spend your time. I think that's the best advice I could give.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the properties you've worked with, because you've worked with a ton of different, from, stuff with Harry Potter, Star Wars, Futurama, Shaun of the Dead, Fast and Furious. The list goes on and on and on. What are some projects that you can think of that were either uniquely challenging or uniquely rewarding in different ways, rather than like normally? I mean, normally I'm sure it's great to see your work out in the world and actually in unique places, but what are there any fun stories of challenging or really awesome situations?
I think probably one of the more interesting ones is when I did the 4 Star Wars posters for the Force Awakens.
Right.
Because, with something like that, I think the first one got announced, the first of the 4 posters got announced probably in like August, maybe, when the film was coming out in December.
Yeah.
And if you think back, and it's the same with this new movie as well, like there was maybe 1 trailer out.
Yep.
And so that was all I had to go on as well.
Sure.
When I was making those posters. Yeah.
Man.
So it was a really fun process for me because I went into everything that was out there. I was going through that like 1-minute trailer frame by frame, getting reference shots, and then trying to piece that together with like stuff that was out in like, film magazines and any exclusive photos that were out there.
Sure.
And even like, there was like there's a photo of J.J. Abrams on set with an X-Wing, and like that's pretty much the X-Wing that I used as reference for one of the X-Wings, So I had to sort of piece together. It was like a little puzzle for me to play, play with, and that was fascinating because like, it's essentially I wasn't finding out anything more than anyone else at all, and I didn't want to find anything else out either because like. I was excited about the film. I didn't want anything spoiled,
Right.
So that was a really fascinating and fun project to work on. And like, it's also the reason that in the 4th poster, which is Kylo Ren fighting Finn, Kylo has his mask on. He should not have his mask on in that.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that. I was going to ask you what the when you after you finish these posters, they get these were used to promote the IMAX release of them, right? So when you get these posters done, they all have to go off and get printed and all these things months before they actually before they go live. When you went and saw the film for the first time, were you like, oh, cool, okay, that one worked out well, and oh shoot, that really shouldn't have been like that? Like, what was going through your brain as you were seeing the movie unfold?
Well, it really was, especially the first one, which is Ray on the desert planet. Like, I like the first 15 minutes of the film, I was like, yeah, nailed it, got it, perfect. And it was like I was sort of like working this narrative through the posters and sort of hoping it was correct, and it was like that one worked. The one with the X-Wings technically worked because it's not really necessarily a point in the film. The one with Captain Phasma, that's sort of just her in some ruins on fire, which works.
Sure.
She's in ruins and fire in the film.
in her one of two scenes.
Exactly. Well, right. So that's also interesting because I would say in the promo before the film came out, she was pretty much put out there as like a main character. Right?
Yeah. Right.
And I was very disappointed to see her be so cut out of the film.
I'm sure she was too.
Yeah, because she's such a badass looking lady as well. Like, I really hope she's got more of a role in the next one.
I'm pretty sure she does. Yeah, based on what I've read about it.
And then like the last poster, it was interesting because obviously Finn isn't really the lightsaber guy, it's Rey, and of course no one knew that. So it does sort of give a really interesting slant to how you might view those posters, and I think if you sort of looked at them now, having seen the film 2 years ago, and you hadn't seen that poster before, you might be a bit like, well, why did they do that? I don't know, but
you'd have to imagine, though, that if you were way off base, that Lucasfilm probably would have said something to you in the drafts, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Unless they were just like, we can't tell him anything. These posters are way wrong, and we're just going to go with it. Because
you didn't even get like an extended trailer. You got
all right. So we're gonna shift to final questions to be aware of your time and to keep this bite-sized for everybody. And so I want to ask you mine. Which is about a tool that you use. So you have kind of seemingly become maybe an official, I don't know, you can tell us, at least an unofficial ambassador of the iPad Pro and Pencil. So talk to us a little bit about about your relationship with them. I know you've even been featured at the Apple Store and your work has been featured and you've done talks there. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, it's nothing like official really, but I have certainly done some stuff with Apple, and actually it's sort of stuff. It was with Adobe first, and then with Apple using the Adobe apps on the iPad. That's pretty much my combo that I use when I'm traveling, basically. I really enjoy working on the iPad. With the Pencil, it's pretty much, in the last couple of years I've had quite a lot of traveling to do, and it's made actually working away from the studio quite a viable option. Whereas before I kind of would just be like, okay, well I'm not doing anything for the next 2 weeks or something, and I think it's probably the closest I've been able to emulate my work. On the move, if you will, that I have been able to at all. Yeah, it's really good. I really enjoy working with them. Yeah,
awesome.
All right, so for my final question, I want to ask about the Dan that we don't know. So we know your work, we know what you're known for. So what are you doing when you're not drawing and illustrating?
Okay, well, when I have free time, generally I like to kind of just relax quite a bit. Hang out with my girlfriend, but I kind of have a lot of passion for films, really, which seems, it makes sense, I guess.
I'm not shocked by that, if that's any consolation.
No, I I really, for me, going to the cinema is like the best experience.
Okay,
Got
cool.
The biggest screen, the loudest sound system, the comfiest chairs.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of view film as like the ultimate art form, really.
Nice.
Like, all your senses are taken over, and it's why it annoys me so much, when you got someone behind you making noise or talking or something. Like, don't take me out of that moment of
in front of you on their phone with their phone out. Oh,
the worst. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
So, I really enjoy that, but I also, I kind of enjoy all of the expected, like, I hate the term, but like nerd culture stuff. Like, I like movies, I like video games, I like comic books. I even like board games. I play Magic the Gathering, all of that stuff. Like, I engross myself in all of it. And I think all of that stuff really, it kind of also feels like that stuff it's not work, it's research. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. Absolutely.
So if if there's a cool new movie coming out, I can be like, it's research. I need to go and see Fast and the Furious 8. I do need to see that film. I did need to see that film.
Yeah.
Like, phones are bad in the theater. They're terrible. But I think my worst experience, I did have one where the person beside me had like the worst BO. It was awful. But my worst experience, some people overlaugh. Like, they'll hear a joke and it really doesn't warrant much more than like a little like chuckle, but like you get this like really hearty, like earth-shaking thing. And I went and saw the movie Ted, and it's this guy and his girlfriend, and it was just her just like like for the whole freaking movie.
I hate that face.
Oh my gosh, that was just, it's like the phone thing isn't great, but you loud laughers just.
I mean, I tell you what, you guys in the States have it worse. Like, because in the cinemas over here, we're very reserved, generally quite reserved.
In general, yeah.
But I remember the first time I went to see a film in America, and like the rapturous applause and laughter and screams. I can't remember what the film was. I think it was like a comedy horror film. Probably the worst combo. And it was, I was just like, what the hell is going on in here? Like, what? Wait, I'm quiet. I'm trying to watch this terrible film, whatever it was. But yeah, like, and also laughing like that at Ted, that doesn't seem right either.
It didn't warrant it anyway. Yeah,
you're more upset that they were laughing that hard at Ted than they were at the actual act of doing it.
It was fine. Like, didn't have the real Flash Gordon in it. Yeah, whatever his name is.
It did. Yeah, it did.
I don't know, but yes,
that was good. Yeah.
It was much better than Ted 2.
That was a bad film. Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, so I have just a couple quick final questions.
Couple
thoughts on
just real quick though. If Mark Wahlberg is watching this, we still love you.
Come on the podcast.
It's not on you.
I think he's one of the better things about Transformers 4 and 5. So
I mean,
hats off to you for watching Transformers 4
I
and
don't think
5.
I've seen 5. Yeah, I don't think I've seen it.
What? You should go see Transformers. You probably can't see it now. Look, I will defend films like that because I think they are kind of what film is made for to an extent. Like, sure, they don't make a lot of sense, but me as someone that really likes insane-looking things, Transformers 5 is kind of a visual feast, It's not a great film, but I took a lot away from that film. And most of it was Mark Wahlberg, but
Yeah.
I like to believe that any media has like a redeeming, like there's something about it that made it worth making. I didn't make it out to that one. Okay, so thoughts on? I mean, it's my final questions. I've enjoyed talking to you. You're a cool dude. How do you feel about having to wait potentially until 2019 for the new season of Game of Thrones?
I think that's insane. I think it's absolutely insane. I don't know what the hell they're doing. Get on with it. Everyone's going to be too old. I've going to have forgotten who the hell everyone is.
I didn't even know that was a thing. That's a thing.
It's like a strong possibility. Like, we don't know, but like that's what's being like hinted about.
I think
you might have ruined my night. I'm just saying that.
No, I'm pretty sure they said it was like April 2019, and I'm
quitting.
I really struggle with that show. Like, basically every time there's a new episode, I'd be like, okay, come on, we're going to watch it. And my girlfriend's just like, I just can't be bothered tonight. I just don't want to. And then you watch it and you're like, yeah, it's fine. And that sort of happened every week. And then it's over and you go, right, well, that's that for another year and a half now. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, it's tough. And I think this season especially, I don't know what about it felt really quick. I mean, partly because it was, but then also, I mean, it was like 7 episodes or whatever it was. But then also like the action was like...
It moved very quickly.
The pace was totally different. And, man, it's tough. I mean, we only have like 6 episodes left. Let's just get them already. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think if you watched like Game of Thrones all the way through now from the very start up to now, like in one sitting, it would probably seem like a very crazy show, like the way it changes. I think, because my memory of those first few seasons is like glacial. It's so slow.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's a good.
And then all of a sudden we got fast travel in this latest season, and it like just totally changed.
Yep.
I'm enjoying it, but it's weird. That's all.
Yeah. Okay, and then last question that's just unrelated to everything. How do you feel about Apple's latest announcement? iPhone, like, anything stand out to you? Did you just think it was rubbish? I feel like that's a word you would say. Or
rubbish. It was... I'll be honest, I haven't watched, like, the full proper keynote or anything like that, but I don't know, like, the whole... I think when you're making a talking emoji like a key point of your new phone, that's not great, is it? Like,
you're right.
Like, people are really going to abuse that in a way as well. Like, those talking emojis are going to say some horrific things. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
I can't wait to make that fox make fun of Patrick in multiple different ways. Yeah, that's 100% true.
I'm just going to make him swear a lot. It's going to be amazing.
It seems like an odd way to honor a 10-year anniversary and Steve Jobs' legacy for the first event in the new... It seemed odd. And I guess you have to wait till next year to get all your new iPad announcements to find out what they're doing there.
Yeah, I am actually, as someone who uses I've got an iMac in the studio, laptop, iPad, I use and iPhone, use all the products, love them all, great. But I am very curious about, like, the future for all of that technology, because it has kind of reached, it hasn't gone anywhere new for quite a while now.
Sure.
Like, like the touch bar thing they had on the laptops, like... No one really uses that, do they?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
There has to be something new. And I really hope that it is a laptop that has a touch screen that you can, properly draw on, have, or an iPad that has proper OS X on it or something like that. Those are my hopes. And I feel that Apple don't want to merge their two different parts,
Yeah, because they're two different markets now, and so to merge them would be bad for them.
Well, whatever you're creating on, however it changes, we'll be excited to see it. So
I'll be excited to use it. Yeah.
So tell everybody how they can find you, how they can support what you're doing, and how they can follow you.
Well, my handle for Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, is Dan Mumford Draws. And then my website is so that's a dash, so dan-mumford.com. I also have a store. You can buy lots of lovely prints. Every month or so I'll have new drops of, whatever prints, APs I've got or anything new. And that's pretty much it. And I'm going to be, actually, in the next few months, I'm going to be doing quite a few talks and stuff. I'm going to be at Adobe Max in Las Vegas.
Very cool.
What else? There's a few talks in the UK later on in the year as well. So, all that stuff will be on my website. I have an events page that has any of that stuff on it as well. So I'm pretty active on all of that stuff where you can keep up to date with everything.
Sweet. And I just, this is just a side note, I saw a puzzle the other day at the game shop, a puzzle with your Ghostbusters piece on it.
Yeah.
So I'll be picking that up for Luke because Luke didn't get. I don't think you didn't get one of his.
No, I
one
couldn't
of his
get one.
Ghostbusters pieces, right? So I'll be picking that puzzle up for him. So before we head out of here, would you do us a favor and help us draw tokens so that we know what we're talking about next week?
Yes, I will indeed.
All right, so that's it for the interview portion of the episode. Up next, we're going to draw some tokens. The tokens portion every week is when we get to find out the categories that we're going to have for the following week, and they're done completely random. Here are the tokens. Ooh, totally visual. Here are the tokens. I'm going to...
this might be the first time people see these.
Oh, yeah, as far as the general public. I'm going to fold them face down, put them down here. I'm going to shuffle them up. I can't see what they are. You can't see what they are, but you're going to give me a number between 1 and 3, and I'm going to go ahead and pick for Luke. Go ahead for me.
2.
Toys and games.
Yeah, you're doing it.
1 for 1. 1 for 1.
Congratulations. All right, that's 1 for 1. Give me a number 1 or 2, and you'll be picking for Patrick.
I'm going to say he looks like a 1.
He does look like a 1.
Yeah.
Which means Andrew looks like a big number 2.
So you got art and design, Patrick?
I didn't mean that.
That's fine. I get TV and film, which I think is good. There's some movies coming out. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Mother comes out this week, so I'm pretty excited.
I
That
can't.
looks insane.
Oh, I know. I'm really excited about that.
And it's a bit like Rotten Tomatoes, or I say Rotten Tomatoes, that's just where I was reading the description. Whoever wrote the description, it's like psychological thriller or something. No, it just looks like a horror film. Like, I like psychological thrillers. I don't think this is that.
Jennifer Lawrence, this is totally side note. Jennifer Lawrence said that in the filming of it, she had to, after scenes were done, she'd have to like tell them to wait for a minute, and she would sing Christmas songs to herself just to bring her back down.
Yikes.
Because of how intense it was. So you can find show notes and links to all the stuff that we just talked about in mofonepodcast.com. You can subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. That way you never miss an episode. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, subscribe there as well. Rate and review. Drop a message in the comments. Let us know that you're listening. Let us know what you like. And that's super helpful for us. Doesn't take you very much time, but it helps us out a ton. You can support the show on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/mof1podcast to give financially to the show and help us continue to create more fun and good content. And then you can, while you're there, join the Slack community. Go to mof1podcast.com/Slack to join the conversation every single day. There are over 250 creatives, artists, designers, entrepreneurs inside the Slack channel having conversations, encouraging each other. It's an incredible, incredible time. You need to be there. Am I missing something else? Oh, search MF1 Podcast on all the different social. It's really simple. That's where we're at, right, Patrick?
Yes.
It's a one-stop shop, honestly. If you just type that in, the internet should find everything you need to know.
Just talk to us. We love talking to you guys. So say so. It doesn't matter what it's on. If it's a comment somewhere, or a review, or a tweet, or it's something. Just talk to us.
Or a something. But I think for now we're gonna bounce out of here. I'm Andrew.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Luke.
I'm Dan.
Peace out.
Bye.
Hold on to your butts.
Farewell.